This is the AI Assisted Organization podcast with your host, myself, Piers and my co-host and co-founder of Implement AI, Dr. Aalok Shukla. Good morning, Aalok.
Good morning, Piers. How are you?
All right, I was watching The Creator last night, the film AI. So there was
You
a
tell-
few issues there with robots dying and people sort of crying over their bodies and thinking, well, I've never heard of a backup. Anyway, moving on.
Not too many spoilers.
Yeah, sorry about that. That wasn't a spoiler. That was just a bit, I don't quite understand that. But you were in Dublin then, so we actually did your event.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it was in Dublin last week. It was really great. Great opportunity to meet lots of progressive Irish entrepreneurs, talk about different use cases that they're looking at, and there were some very other interesting speakers at the conference as well, like the former MD from Coca-Cola, hearing about different things in a corporate setting as well. But yeah, no, it was a great trip, and going back over in November.
And we'll talk about our we'll mention our upcoming event a bit later on in the pod. So we're gonna talk about there's a lot to go through. We're going to talk about training today, but we're going to go through a lot of news. But we're going to go through it quite quickly because there's so much of it. And every week you say on this podcast, there was a big week in AI. Last week, and we're recording this slightly later this week. It's just been absolutely bonkers, actually. So you got news from Meta, OpenAI, Amazon, Microsoft, and we've pulled out the ones that are mostly relevant for business use cases. But the reality is that a lot of this technology, even though it appears sometimes, for example, Snap and Microsoft, have done a deal, it might appear that it's consumer focused, but eventually, at some point in the not too distant future, most of these applications you'll discover use cases in the business world for these applications. So we're going to go through that. We're going to implement AI updates about our events and various other things we're doing. And we're going to talk about training and how important training is and what that means to your business in terms of becoming an AI assisted organization. And of course, we'll have AI of the week. So I've had to put a list today for the news because there's so much of it. So let's get cracking. Deep breath. So GPT-4 Vision. So, large language models, typically we're all used to chatbots, okay? You're entering text and you're receiving the text as the output. But as we always say, the technology is going to acquire all the human senses. And one of the most important ones is vision. So you're now seeing that ChatGPT is going to, number one, kind of vision inputs. You've already seen outputs now with DALL-E 3s out as well. But this means that now computers can see and they can look at images or objects, understand what they are and respond. And this is a massive development, isn't it, Aalok?
I mean, this bit alone, it could cover the whole podcast. It's profound. If you think about how most of these LLMs have token limits based on the number of tokens, number of characters, number of words that go into a system. Now, if you think about an image, how many bits of information are in an image? For example, it's much more high resolution. There's much more information. Some of the use cases I've seen for GPT-4 Vision, I'm going to go through a few of them. They are profound. I've seen people putting in a photo of, let's say, the bike. This is the use case that OpenAI themselves show, and it's asking the photo of the bike, how do I adjust the saddle? And then it tells you the instructions, and then the message back is circling of a part they think is the adjustable part. And they say, is this the part? It says, no, that's not the part. And it continues it. So not only can it understand unilaterally what's in the image, it can also drill down further deep down based on the questions you ask and have a conversation around that. That's profound. But then some of the things I've seen from a technical perspective are incredible. I saw people upload a photo of a chessboard saying white to checkmate in 3 moves, and it actually understood the chessboard, understood the positions, and it gave the answer to that. I've seen it do where's Wally, where there's a person hiding within it and discover where it is. People are uploading photos of, let's say, an app or a user interface, and it's generating the code for that. Honestly, this actually just redefines what's possible.
I saw one a lot where I saw one. There was one where obviously you had it's copying UIs,
Correct.
like SaaS dashboards, for example. I get that, but one where there was a meeting where they put a basic architecture on a whiteboard. It was hand drawn, and they took a picture of it, and then it wrote the code for it to make that actually happen. So again, understanding
even even complex technical things like I've seen where they've uploaded a complex picture of a cell where it's got all the different things and, like, you know, with the organelles and the mitochondria and all that kind of stuff, and it deconstructs and explains that. I've also seen like very complex PowerPoints with like all these workflows of like this, that, arrows and everything like that being understood and deconstructed. And then they also put in this 4-level diagram which didn't have the word inception written anywhere, but it was actually the description of the deep dream states of where it's going into. It's Christopher Nolan's sketch of like Inception, and it said this is the model for Inception, basically, even though that wasn't listed anywhere.
And the good news is for your kids' homework, maybe not for teachers, is that there's one where it just took a photo, it showed them a lot of maths problems,
the test,
it was basically additions,
yes,
and it just did it. So that's huge. Now, before we move on though from GPT-4, it can now talk. So you might not have this yet. You've got to be on ChatGPT Plus to see this. I haven't got it yet. Where now you can press a button now and talk to it, and then you have to press things for it to respond. But now it can just talk to you. So if you've ever used Pi by Inflection, that talks to you in sort of a more reasonably natural way. There's a slight delay while it's thinking about it, but that's huge as well. And you've seen demos where there's two ChatGPTs talking to each other, and they give them characters like, I think it was like a bro chat. And it's like, yo, bros, so cool, and they're chatting away. And again, that's profound as well, because like I've said this on the pod like weeks ago. My frustration with it is why do I have to type? I don't understand why we're still using keyboards.
It's not going to be long when you can point an image and you can talk about what's going on. No, I mean, the voice interface is profound because that reduces the friction. But the thing is, what I'm trying to see is that like the fundamental use cases for all of these are insane. You can incorporate this into fridges and any kind of smart device within your car. It can detect different elements of what's kind of going on. There's so many different areas that this can be used within. And I mean, people talk about GPT-5, but honestly, with Vision, it already unlocks a whole new set of use cases when you compound that against the data analytics it's already got and the different elements it can do.
Yeah. And before we move on from ChatGPT, another update really is that, if you don't know this yet, is that Bing is back. So they turned it off so you couldn't search. It was a bit of a pain actually, because it was kind of somehow it was finding a way behind media paywalls and providing content it probably shouldn't have done. So they fixed that and it's back. So if you're using ChatGPT, the plugins, you'll see Bing there, as well as advanced data analysis. Right, moving on. So YouTube now, and YouTube have made quite a few announcements, but I haven't really seen anything really launched yet. But you're now seeing a raft of YouTube AI tools coming out. Now you're seeing ones about translation. You're going to see ones where it'll translate your video, and also it'll change your lips. You'll see Aalok's been playing with that on our sort of socials. But also, YouTube now are helping you select music. So if you ever made YouTube videos, which I have tried in the past, you'll find it's just time consuming. And now it's kind of reading the transcript, the title, what it's all about, and helping you select music. They're calling that YouTube Allowed. So you're going to have dubbing music selection. So what they're trying to do is just make videos more have more sort of a larger audience by changing the language, but also just improving and speeding up the workflows. That's a quick one. Spotify voice cloning. This is quite a big one. Again, going back to the voice cloning. So you saw all this noise in the press about deep fakes, video ones and audio ones, but actually you're rapidly seeing them have application in the business world. So one I just mentioned at YouTube is the ability to dub over in a different language, but also change the shape of your lips so it matches up. Now Spotify are doing voice cloning for podcasts. So now you can record a podcast. Again, this goes back to extending the reach, extending the size of your audience, and it will translate your podcast into whatever language you select. However, what's interesting about this is it does it in your voice.
Yeah, and it's at the moment it's just for a few podcasts only, like Lex Friedman and like Guitar of a CEO and a few others, and it's in a few languages. but I'm really looking forward to it being in more languages and being available. Because, for example, there's one Portuguese podcast from like one of my friends has been telling me he wishes I could listen to it, and I wish I could listen to it too. So as soon as that comes, I mean, it just unlocks so much more. I mean, I was watching a video where Mr. Beast was talking about like how only 10% of the world basically speaks English. Like, so you've got like 90% of people that are not being explored or communicated to. So imagine that we can access all their content, they can access all our content. I mean, it's just going to be insane the amount of knowledge that will kind of compound and grow. It's going to be.
And moving on, so Meta had a huge week. Now, a lot of this again does seem quite consumer, but again, as we always say, this is going to have applications in your business. So Meta have these annual events like the big tech companies do called Meta Connect, and they announced 28 AIs, believe it or not. They've all got different sort of characters. They're quite US focused, like American football players, people like that. Snoop Dogg is a sort of a dungeon master. So things like that. But they're showing that what they're trying to do is build this into all the Meta products, so Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp. And they're going to be able to converse with these AIs, and they have different domain knowledge. They want to be sports, want to be cookery, want to be self improvement, for example. And you can have conversations with them across all the different apps. I don't quite know how much memory they have about you, because then you're getting into the kind of the inflection sort of pie world, aren't you, in terms of having personal assistants. So they're all kind of celebrities. They've launched Ray-Bans. So Ray-Ban have done a deal to have the sort of you saw Google Glass quite a few years ago, which looked a bit sort of odd, geeky, if anything else like that. But now Ray-Ban are integrating the Meta technology into the glasses, and you see Mark Zuckerberg wearing them. They look like Ray-Bans, to be quite frank. And you can now live stream whatever you're looking at. And they've improved the technology to do that, and translation's coming again. So now you'll be wearing your Ray-Bans, live streaming your holiday, and whoever's talking to you, wherever you are, that's going to be translated in your ears.
I mean, you could be like, let's say in Rome, and you could be asking a question like, "What is the building in front of me, and what is it about?" And it will be, and the AI will start talking to you about that. I mean, this basically this digital layer on top of the physical world is just getting amplified and contracted. All these technologies are just kind of coming together, and the more consumers. I mean, there's 1 billion people using the Meta platform every month, and if they start getting used to this in a very simple way, 100%, like companies are going to start adopting this kind of like AI first interface. They're going to be a more natural connection essentially, because those AIs in the social medias will want to connect to those other ones basically.
Yeah, I was going to cover this slightly later, but let's do it now because we're talking about wearables basically. And Humane, I haven't heard of Humane. I think they were Apple people, came out with Apple product. So Humane have got a device called it's called, I'm not sure what it's called actually. It's a Humane pin, I think. And it's a bit like a Star Trek pin, but it's a small pin you wear, which is it's essentially a camera, most of it, so you can see what you're doing and where you are. And the idea is a bit like the Ray-Ban glasses, is eventually is to move away from the kind of the I use an iPhone, the iPhone phone form factor, this big chunk of glass in your pocket, which is great if you want to see things, but eventually you're going to be able to see these in the glasses. It's going to have vision automatically, which your phone doesn't have. You've got to hold it up. They can have the same kind of processing power to somewhere else in your pocket. It doesn't have to be in your hand. So we're going to see the world move away from that form factor, and the technology become more integrated and more invisible.
We are in the future.
Yeah, and Sam Altman, there's one called the Sam Altman phone, they're calling it. So Sam Altman, he's the CEO of OpenAI. Johnny Ive, the former designer from Apple, designed the iPhone essentially, the iPhone. And they've come together with about $1 billion of funding. Again, startup funding from, I think it's come out of SoftBank, to create a new version or whatever there might be, technology that's going to replace the phone. So we'll see what that looks like. I'm going back to Meta quickly. So Meta also, I'll just do that again. So going back to Meta quickly, they showed it was a podcast, a conversation, an interview between Lex Fridman, who's got quite a very good podcast, you haven't heard it, and Mark Zuckerberg. And they did it in the metaverse. So when the metaverse was first really launched, it was these kind of disembodied cartoon characters, floating around, having conversations. Everyone sort of laughs it out of the room, really. But now what they're showing is that, and this takes a full body scan, but it's almost photoreal. They're almost photoreal avatars of you with all the expressions, all the imperfections. And I think Lex Fridman, who actually is he's at MIT, focused on AI and robotics. He was blown away by it. I mean, the first 10 minutes, that's all he could talk about is how realistic it is. So what we're seeing now is the ability to clone yourself, exist in the metaverse. And the interesting thing is, this is what Meta said in the other announcements as well, is that it knows you, it has your profile. And when you're not there, if you're off, you're at work, whatever you're doing, your avatar can still be wandering around the metaverse, interacting with others, which is slightly worrying.
It honestly, when I watched that video, I was in Ireland, I was blown away, and I was thinking, like, this is literally the future right now, the convergence. And many people have been shocked how it went from this cartoonish joke image of like this cartoonish blockish Mark Zuckerberg, which we'd seen before, to this. And good for him. But this is going to revolutionize communication.
Yeah. And what's quite interesting is, but you think like these avatars are going to be hugely compute and bandwidth, so they'll need a huge amount of it. And the reality is that the codec, or however they do this, the codec to swap information about the way an avatar is changing and have a video conversation, a 3D conversation, not a 2D video call, is actually smaller than is what's required, especially in terms of bandwidth for actual video conversations. Because that's real time, two streams going backwards and forwards. This isn't. This is just moving the delta, what's changing between the two places.
It's incredible, isn't it, right? How you can have a step change in the experience and the quality, and a reduction in the amount of information or voltage or whatever you want to call it to make that happen. Our brains can't comprehend that it can be like so much better and more efficient.
Well, what's interesting as well, you could be on a video call, an avatar call, whatever you want to call it. You could be driving, but you're on the call, but your avatar is acting, in a natural way, and it's kind of in the meter where it needs to be. So it's fascinating. So you can see the obvious applications for that in business. Tesla, the Optimus robots, now you're seeing their robots. And I never quite know whether buy Tesla or Optimus, but I'm sure it's all real and good. But they're now sorting out between objects. So you've seen them have different objects like Lego, for example, and it can look at it again, going back to computer vision. It's looking at this sort of pile of stuff and sorting them in ways in which they've been instructed to.
Robotics with all these capabilities are coming. There's the Optimus robot. There's also the company called Figure. You should look at what they're doing as well. This is not far away.
Moving on. So Zapier, if you haven't used Zapier, this is the way of connecting applications together and creating workflows. We'll talk about one today in the AI of the week, which we've used Zapier for. There's also new one called Make, which is extremely powerful. Now, Zapier have launched Canvas. So this is an AI-powered flowchart kind of tool. And I've kind of seen this coming in Zapier, because before you had to look at connect it to your applications and then kind of build the workflow. Whereas now you can go into Zapier and just say, look, I need to connect this to that, and on the way, could you do X, Y, and Z? And it kind of understands what you're trying to do, looks at, and it basically creates a Zap for you. Not completely, but it gives you the basic workflow, and you go in and then fill out and add the detail. So this is actually really important, and you're going to see, I think, that it's interesting, isn't it? I think, Aalok, that in some ways, large language models are a threat to these kind of companies, because now you can be able to talk to technology and tell it what to do. So rather than talk to Zapier, tell it what you want, and it tries to translate it, it just does it all for you. So that's coming. But on the other hand, I think for the foreseeable future, things like Zapier and Make are going to be really important to creating AI-driven workflows.
100%, because you need to have this data security and the connection of the pipes and the repeatability about what you want. AI powered workflows are incredible. Like, for example, I was building one which looks at our podcast when it's uploaded. It then grabs the file automatically. It can then have it summarized, transcribed, and then you can generate whatever you want with it. I mean, having these sorts of things where if this happens, these steps happen afterwards. The more you can do that within your company, because that's literally what you train people to do when you're training them and you're giving them the tasks and workflows to do. So, you need to be thinking about these AI-assisted workflows for sure.
And moving on, so Amazon AWS has announced the general availability of Bedrock. So we've mentioned this quite a few times over the last months, actually, not even weeks. And this is essentially they've got different foundation models, and not just these are Amazon models. They're going to have Meta Llama 2 in there as well, and they're available through API. So what they want to create, obviously, is AWS, the largest cloud provider out there, is a platform for you to develop and deploy artificial intelligence as well. So you've seen the companies like Google and OpenAI, they're all working with each other.
Hugging
NVIDIA,
Face.
yeah, they're all kind of trying to do this, but they want to become almost like the app store for large language models. So you can have different models for different use cases, and then obviously what you get is the hosting and the infrastructure and all the security that comes with it. And also they announced quite a while ago Code Whisperer. So just like Google have got one, and Meta have created one. It's a they call it coding assistant. I think a coding assistant is trying to be nice to people whose job it is to code, because I'm not sure he's an assistant. I think it's a replacement in most cases, apart from tweaking things and a bit of QA at the end. So that's an interesting development there. You're going to see more of that. Moving on, and Apple are now launching a ChatGPT style AI. So we all knew this was coming. Apple have been very quiet, haven't really made a lot of noise about AI, even at their large annual conferences, but it is coming. So just like Amazon Alexa, you're now going to see large language models embedded into iPhones, essentially, which is going to change that game as well. And on that, Stable are just about to launch a 3 billion parameter large language model. Now, normally, stop me if I'm wrong, Aalok, large language models are between 7 and about 70 billion parameters, depending how big they are and how good they are. So these are smaller ones, they're kind of cut down versions, but this now means they can run locally on a device. Don't even need to be connected to the internet. So imagine now you're going to have, Apple ChatGPT, is it going to be internet connected, or is it just going to be, sort of local? But you're now seeing them being able to compress these large language models. They won't be as good, they won't have much detail or nuance, but they're compressing them so they'll run on a phone and eventually a watch.
Yeah, I mean, but I think that's the model that Apple will take, because they're very strong about privacy, and they're not going to want to be transmitting data. They're going to want to have it running and coded on your iPhone. So I'm sure like a massive iOS update is coming, basically, right? Like where suddenly everything is kind of like transformed.
I mean, I'm waiting for when Alexa starts, having a serious conversation with you, and that's coming very, very soon. All of them, and that it's not even subtle. Well, that's that subtle change out there changes the way we all are going to interact with technology completely. Your TV with Amazon Fire built into it, you'll be able to talk to it. Yeah, exactly. None of that kind of searching, I don't understand you nonsense. It's gone, and it's got to appear in cars.
Yeah, and also like the TV example at the moment, right? Imagine like a Samsung TV. It could know all the programs you're watching across the platform. So, for example, Netflix only knows what you watch on Netflix, right? But imagine you're watching a lot of YouTube, or you're watching a lot of Amazon Prime or something like this. Samsung's going to have that information potentially about like which preferences you have in different areas, and going from there. I mean, there's so much stuff.
And then we focus on AI agents and developing them as well. And Microsoft launched AutoGen, which I know you've been playing with. So this is the platform that allows you, it's a framework really more than a platform, to help you bring together different AI agents, explain. And we saw AutoGPT, which is out there, it was kind of code you could just install yourself. But now there's more of a framework they're developing for actually putting together teams of AI agents to deliver tasks. And it works in a kind of a group chat. You may have 3 in marketing, just with different temperatures in terms of their creativity.
So I think the way you want to think about this is, let's imagine like you're in the kitchen and you're cooking, right? You've got a chopping board, you've got a knife, you've got maybe a grater, you've got a few different things. These are discrete tools that do different things. And if you're trying to cook quickly, like chop something, grate something, blend something, you want those tools ready to hand and already configured. In the same way, at the moment, we're using like a general purpose AI, let's say a GPT or a Claude, and then every time we want to do something, we're setting up the context for, you are now going to be a knife, you're now going to be a blender, you're now going to be a chopping board or whatever like this. And you can do that. But imagine you've got like all those personalities ready, like your team. You've already got someone who's like your product manager as the AI. You've already got someone who's your content marketer as your AI and is responsible for the social posts, or responsible for ideating the month strategy. That's someone different. That's your digital CMO. The more companies are going to have this kind of like digitally embodied digital workforce, where there are different AIs which are playing different roles with memories, and that's the key thing, then you're going to start to be able to like literally work with them, and you could just Slack that digital marketing agent and say like, hey, have you got ideas for next week's social media posts? And it will Slack you back saying yes. So for most people, they wouldn't even know that they're not working with a person, essentially. And this is how I believe it's going to be the kind of most friction-free way to interact, by having almost like these AI agents which are embedded into Slack or different platform that you're working with, and you can have this two-way conversation about what you're trying to achieve, basically.
Yeah, and built into that process workflow, whatever you want to call it, you have humans. So you might
Yes,
have
it's a
tasks
team.
that a human needs to perform. Or what you could do before you get to the human, because the humans are busy, is have an AI agent that's representing that human. This could be a real person rather
Or a
than like an
project
avatar
manager.
or persona or project manager, exactly. So they then say, well, Piers, what do you think of this? And because it knows Piers, it'll respond in a way which is similar to me. And only when the task is almost complete do you then is it actually sort of output to a human for oversight or QA, whatever needs to happen there. So look out for that. That's something that we are working on and embedding into our AI agents as well, implement AI. Right, so there was more news, but I think that was enough for today. So
Yes.
implement AI updates. So the event's in Manchester, 18th of October. We're getting there. And there's a few seats left, but if you can get to Manchester, it's central Manchester. We're doing that with the Manchester Growth Hub and Tech North Associates. So that's going to be a great event. We're going to go through artificial intelligence, how to become an AI-assisted organization, what the steps are, and we're going to go through what you need to know. We've
We've got
been
London.
developing. We've got London as well, haven't we? We'll go through that.
Yeah, so we've got London at Home House. We're going to be doing an event, so that'll be great. Homegrown members club, so that'll be brilliant to meet different members and do more of a fireside chat.
16th, isn't it? Yeah, so I think it might be members only. You have to check, but Homegrown's a great sort of it's a destination, there's a building as well near Marble Arch in London, but it's also a sort of a members club as well, so it's a much bigger network. So we're going to be there going over how to become an AI assisted organization. We've been developing, and we'll start doing some demos when we can. AI agents for clients. So we've been AI, implement AI is quite a new business, but we're now starting to roll out AI agents for our clients, which are automating specific workflows in ways that they want it done. And we keep saying this, we are now just sort of pitting up our AI agent white paper, and that's a good one. So that's going to be
Yeah,
something which we'll publish as
the
soon as
future of
possible.
work.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and we're going to talk about AI training next, and AI Activate. Again, this is our 60-day sprint. That's something you're interested in. It's just learning about how to, start the journey becoming an AI assisted organization, from policy to training through to, trying to automate a specific workflow. Then get in touch and come and talk to us about AI Activate. Right, training. So this is today's theme. The way I look at this, Alok, isn't it? The way I explained is that if you want to become an AI assisted organization, so you're going from nothing all the way through to fully autonomous one day.
Yeah.
There are steps, right? So we don't say to our clients, you've got to try and turn this on and off you go. You're autonomous. It doesn't work like that. And one of the first, and this is really about, it's about you know, improving and giving your team more meaningful work. So augmenting humans. It's about automating the mundane, optimizing your business, growing faster and increasing margins and becoming more profitable. And what that really is, at the end of the day, is competitive advantage.
Yeah.
So as AI has been rolled out, you've got these platforms like ChatGPT that anyone can use. You can have Google Duet, Microsoft Copilot. It's going to be everywhere. So it's going to, and we talked about today on the
It is
news how,
everywhere.
yeah, you're going to see it in Snap, in Meta, in WhatsApp, in Instagram, in Facebook. It's just going to be everywhere. So the first way in which you can really leverage AI and create competitive advantage is by making sure that your team understand it, and by your team I mean your board as well, so they get the context of it. You've put your policy and governance in place so you can actually manage this properly. But then it's training. It's making sure people
Yeah.
understand how to use
The
this technology
implications and the
exactly and
possibilities.
extract the most value from it, isn't it?
So training is so important because like your team has to understand what is possible. So anytime they're manipulating words, images, numbers, sounds, so like wins, they need to understand that there's an AI first solution for that. Because if they're not using that and they're not selecting AI tools, they're spending longer on tasks than they need to, and their also quality and creativity will vary based on the time of day. So if they understand that they can straight away use AI to almost help them start the task to get things quicker, it's so important. So having the mindset of knowing what to look for within their tasks and workflow is critical, and then having the skill set to be able to actually turn those ideas into outputs using AI, which fit with your company policy, framework, branding, everything like that. And that's what training comes in for.
It's also about understanding, you don't have to be an expert in how a large language model is created and trained and fine-tuned, all that kind of stuff. But if you understand how the technology thinks, you want to think of it that way, thinks or works, then it helps you use it. And the point I was making at the start of this is that this is not just about, somebody in your marketing department being able to, prompt engineer to extract the best. Because again, we'll talk about prompt engineering maybe quickly, but it's about your board, it's about your senior leadership team. Because although they might not be prompt engineering all day, or they probably will be in their private lives, is that unless they understand how this technology works, how it could be integrated into a business, what value it can bring, what value it can add, then they won't be fully on board with it being deployed throughout the business, because they won't understand it, and that's where you suffer from fear, uncertainty, and doubt.
Yeah, let's take that example. When a new person would join a company, imagine they have to write as part of their work a weekly report. Let's just say that on whatever task they're doing, for example, right? And there's a particular format for the report where it's got to have like the data first, the summary of the key things, and then what experiments they ran or whatever it is. Let's just imagine that. Now, when a new intern or new employee joins the company, if they just created their own idea of a report, it wouldn't match what the company wanted. So the training process is then them showing them an example of what they want it to look like. And then every week they would expect the same thing. With prompt engineering, by having, you can apply the same principle where you can say, okay, the output I want from my AI is to be formatted like this, showing this level of detail, using these sorts of references in this sort of area. Now that, once you set that up, then it means that anyone within your company, if they're doing that task, they'll have a consistent output. So it's very important to be able to understand how this is not about using it for one-offs. It's more about creating the systems that allows you to do things repeatedly and consistently, basically.
Yeah, and we provide courses like this, like AI fundamentals, AI prompt engineering, to provide everyone with those basic skills. We do more specialist ones as well. But I think everybody needs to have some understanding of how it works and how to use it. And when you see Microsoft Copilot being rolled out as well, which is going to be a game changer, we have a course we're developing for that as well. And what this really does is, it scales up your employees. So we talk about this AI assisted organization. Our new white paper we're publishing is about the AI agents, and AI agents working with your human resource, your team, to scale yourselves up so you can actually do more with less as you grow.
Yeah, I think the way to think about it is imagine you've got your team members and they've got access to the computer and the desktop software only, but they don't know how to use the internet. They don't know how to access different platforms and software and things like this. So they're trying to work doing everything with just their own knowledge and just using the programs on the computer, versus someone else who knows how to use the internet, access different information, use Google. They're going to be at a profound advantage. This is the same level of step change, if not bigger, basically, because it can give you much better answers than it could have done with Google before. Because if you had Britannica on a CD-ROM versus Britannica online, it was not too different. This is different now, basically, because you take your unique information, circumstances, and context and give you specific, very high quality information. And so it's critical to have your team up to speed.
Yeah, and it levels people up, doesn't it? So if you're sort of a logic, really, that's the way your brain works. You can now be a creative. You don't have to go and wait for somebody. If you're very creative, you're not particularly good at logic, then you now have access to the ability to understand data and words. So that's the power of this. It levels your team up and gives people new skills. It sort of super empowers them. So we're going to come back to training as well, and maybe go into more detail in another pod where we'll sort of talk about really what's in these sort of courses, what you can expect to learn, and what you should be learning, no matter how you learn it. Because training is, as we said at the start of this, it's your first way of creating very quick competitive advantage. And then after training, then you've got to start thinking about how do you actually start to automate your business. Because and training again is it's a competitive advantage, because when you're going to start recruiting people now, okay, if I've got company A, which is AI assisted, and I've got company B, which hasn't bothered yet or isn't looking at it, and I want to go and work for one of these companies, they do similar things, similar pay, where am I going to go? I want to go to the company where as I keep saying, the mundane has been automated. I can do the meaningful work that I want to do. I can add more value to that organization, to my own career, to that organization's customers. That's where I'm going to go. And also when I'm there, because I've got access to these tools, I'm going to be skilled up, scaled up, leveled up, whatever you want to call it, because I'll have access in the workplace. You don't really have to, you don't shadow IT, shadow AI. The skills they're going to let me use in the workplace are going to make me better at the job that I've chosen to do.
Totally. And it's like, you have to be embracing this. Like the rate of change is too fast, and so if you are not embracing this in your company, I'm seeing so many large companies fold and have issues and things change. So anything can shift. So I think employees are going to be looking for where am I going to have a future? Who is actually going to be somewhere that I want to invest my time and energy into?
Yeah, they're going to be looking for this, and if you haven't got it, they won't want to work for you. So, as we said, go and have a look at our courses. It's on our website. There's a tab there for training, and there's probably about over 10 of them now we've actually developed, and especially the fundamentals, the prompt engineering, the content marketing and sales, the kind of the basics. Go and have a look at those. So we're going to leave it there for training this week. We're getting along due to our huge amount of news. AI of the week. So I'm going to choose Be Human. So if you sign up for our AI Insider newsletter or download one of our white papers, you're going to get an email from me that's introducing you to implement AI, and there's a video in there. And what we've done is, say you're called Ian, the video, it'll be a video of me. I'll say, hi Ian, and it goes into the rest of the video. And that initial hi Ian, the idea is it clones my voice and it changes the shape of my lips. It's like an avatar. It's a deep fake, basically, for that one word. So you shouldn't be able to notice. You probably will notice because it's not perfect yet. But we wanted to do that just to show how powerful this technology is in terms of starting to personalize communications with your customers and stakeholders.
This having dynamic video messaging, dynamic audio messaging, like a voice note, or imagine you try to order something online and then you didn't check out, so then they email you straight away with a little video about, hey, you didn't buy that thing yet, you might want to think about this. All of those things just add that personalization, and I think it's just really nice to be able to see exactly how that works, because you can leverage this both in sales and customer success and onboarding and training as well.
And you can be more complicated. You can have the name, where they are. You can put a product in there. So it can become quite complicated if you want it to. That's Be Human. I was just looking, behuman.ai. Go and have a look at that. And that email you're going to receive when you sign up to AI newsletter, obviously AI Insider newsletter. We use Zapier to create that workflow. So there you go. That's it for this week. There's a huge amount of news there. Training, extremely important. That's how you really do get started on this straight away. So do sign up for our AI Insider newsletter. Download our white papers, the AI Assisted Organization, the one-off Chief AI Officers. And please follow the pod, subscribe, rate us on Apple Podcasts if you can, please, if you enjoy the show, and please share it. So that's it for this week. It's the AI Assisted Organization podcast. Myself, Piers and Aalok, and Dr. Aalok Shukla. Thanks for listening.
Thanks, Piers.